Hello everyone. Today our coach will talk about the types of boxing stances and their influence on the manner of the fight, what the boxing stance should be for beginners, how to position it, and what difficulties may arise during the fight if your stance is incorrect, and also how and why you need to change boxing stances during a fight. Only here and now at Sergey Raab's boxing school. Why does a boxer keep his head down at about 45 degrees? That is, it's not critical. It may be a little lower, it may be a little higher. That is, the most important thing is to see your opponent. Why is the head down? Because from the point of view of binocular vision, a person cannot see a straight line due to the distance. That is, if the distance is further, then there are no problems. That is, we estimate the distance to the target, so to speak. But as soon as it is close, from about a meter away, person does not see the approach of a straight line. That is, his vision does not see him. If he looks straight ahead, like this, then he simply will not notice it. Therefore, boxers came up with a very simple thing. They simply lower their heads and look from under their brows. He seems to see the shadow of the punch. That is, by changing the angle of view, we already see the line of the punch. If you stand straight like this, then most likely, in addition to breaking your face, you may also damage your spine, because a strong punch will cause a sharp movement back, and the spine will be injured. Now we move on to the shoulders. Shoulder position in your stance. On the one hand, when you stand in your stance, one shoulder is raised so that you can touch your cheek without any problems from one side and from the other side. That is, it is like your protection with your shoulders. This is a very short movement. The simplest thing is to just pull your shoulder. That is, if you saw the danger, you pulled your shoulder. You can't have your shoulders raised. That is, if you lift your shoulders, then most likely your shoulder blade will become numb. That is, you'll just get very tired quickly. A very important moment regarding protecting the head with your hands. That is, as a rule, to protect the head, boxers begin to raise their hands. That is, firstly, the mistake is, if you raised your hand, then the muscles are already tense. You will not hit quickly. With a tired muscle, you won't hit at all. That is, your hand will simply sluggish. There will be no strength in it. The second movement is how you hold your head. That is, the defense in boxing is set up this way. The head tends to the hands. That is, the neck itself is pressed in. It seems to be pressed in a little. Thus, in order to comply with all this, from the point of view of physics, all these inclinations, the correct inclinations, hand position in stance, it all depends on the distance. The further you are from your opponent, the lower your hands. That is, the most natural position for a person is when his hands are down. That is, in this position, your hands rest. As soon as you start raising your arms, the blood circulation cycle begins to change. If you raise your arms up at all, they will become numb. The blood will simply all move away from there, and they will go numb. Therefore, in order not to lose the power of the punch, and the hands are primarily punches, they must be held relaxed towards you. And one of the hands, if you are right-handed, then the right one. If you are left-handed, then the left one. The hand seems to lay on the cheek. That is, it's simply positioned from the point of view of the emphasis on the body. It seems to be here in such a way that it can move along the lever of the shoulder, so as not to move your hand, but to move your entire shoulder blade. This way, you will ensure the greatest grip of this protection. Therefore, the right hand is the only hand that participates in defense. The left hand cannot participate in defense. This is from the point of view of the average distance. I will explain why. Because with the right hand we eat, with the right hand we write. The right hand is more developed and it is more accurate in its muscle contractions. The left hand may not obey. It will work for you from the point of view of only one reaction. That is, when you were scared, you reacted only in one direction, and the reverse movement of the hand is already a natural state. That is, the person does not even think about it. This can be explained using the following example. For example, you are scared, and you once went into a deviation. The reaction only worked here, but the opposite is this natural straightening. It is done blindly. It means that the person does not think about it. Boxers use this very often. Scared him, he dodged, and then when he moves back, he is in this blind spot. He cannot react. Therefore, in order to defend himself correctly, the left hand is not excluded from the defense. That is, the left hand can hold back the punch, but you do all the main fend-offs, all the main defensive actions with only one right hand. Let me emphasize once again, this is our physiological feature if you are right-handed. If you are left-handed, then use your left hand. Hips in boxing. Hips in boxing are punches, and there is one such nuance. I'll just show you so that it would be clear. Everyone talks about transferring body weight. Here it is, from one leg to the other. It's simple. What role do the hips play in this? The thing is that if I show you, the hand moves quickly, but you will never transfer the body weight quickly. You can try, but when you swing, you will not do it quickly. That is, you get a resonance. That is, the hand moves quickly, but the transfer of the body weight goes slowly. And this is where the hip comes in. The point is to quickly transfer your body weight. You just pull your hip, and that's it. So, you stand, transfer your body weight using your hip 1. Turn it sharply, 1. And instantly, you jump from one to the other, using your hip 1. So the hip is not excluded from the stance. As a rule, all these movements, which are called from the hip, are done in a circle. 1. And then your whole body, including your legs, will already keep up with your hand. That is, the movement from the leg through the hip to the extensor blade will intensify. It is very important to observe the geometry correctly here. Here is the first stance. The first stance is frontal. That is, all beginners start from this position. The point of the front stance, of the training stance, is that it is much easier to transfer your body weight here than in this stance. This one is much easier. If there is a turn of the hips, your legs come off the floor. That is, everything is clear. You move from one axis to another axis. The shape is determined very simply. Take the legs and connect. Do 1, 2, 3. Legs wider than shoulders. Next, the direction of punch. Your point of emphasis, if folded correctly, from one leg to the other leg, is here. If you take your hand somewhere else, you will lose the concentration of force. Because I say again, the direction of your force depends on your muscles. That is, the stronger the muscles, the stronger the punch. But the muscle needs a very precise line direction. So, the boxing stance is a very important thing in boxing. When a person walks, he strains minimally. And when he stands to take a punch, he should also strain minimally. In boxing, there are straight legs. In boxing, there are bent legs. It all depends on the situation. You won't be able to twist on straight legs. But even when your legs are strongly bent, there won't be any twisting either. So everything should be from slight curvature to slight straightening. Now here are the varieties of stances. Stances in general, stance in boxing, determines movement and determines punches. If you stand incorrectly, then you hit incorrectly, you move incorrectly. So at this stage, you need to be very precise about how you should stand and how you should do it. Your first stance is frontal. 1, 2, 3, leg back, exactly in line with the heel. The leg is twisted a little bit here, and the leg is twisted a little bit here, ensuring the transfer of body weight and providing rotation. This is your stance. How to stand in someone else's stance? Just take a step. That's it. A fighting situation can put you in an awkward position. In your case, there simply shouldn't be any uncomfortable positions. The fighting situation will force you to change stances quickly. You need a stance, first of all, for your convenience. That is, so that you feel comfortable. Therefore, there are a lot of moments here that are presented individually, depending on the characteristics of the athlete. For some, it's like that. For others, it's different. For example, if you take Oscar de la Hoya, then his manner of his stance was tilted forward. That is, he stood on his front foot and hit very hard from the left. On the right, he seemed to be not very strong, but on the left, almost 70% of time, he knocked people down. Mike Tyson has a more frontal stance, a semi-frontal one. Let's say due to the fact that he mainly kicked on the opposite leg, the so-called herringbone. If you hit this target, then that's it. There is no escape from there. Because the legs are wide apart, the base of the punch is very large, the amplitude is very large, so it is already very difficult to get out from this. But Evander Holyfield found a way out. He just started to fail it, pulled it towards himself, and simply failed it. So these are the moments. Moreover, Evander Holyfield stood in a classic stance. I would even say that this was the setup of Soviet athletes, because his stance was in the middle. By the way, Kostya Tszyu is also standing in the middle. In rare cases, he fell a little backwards. That is, he even has a manner of punching as far as possible. That's why he sometimes fell over on his back leg. This is not a mistake. This is a feature. Here, the more situation you have in fighting, and the more you consider them, the easier it will be for you. Because it is clear that if you are in only one stance like this, or only in this stance, or only in this one, well, you will most likely be not very comfortable. All stances are used depending on the situation that happens to you, especially since situations in battle change very quickly. So gradually the boxer develops all types of stances. At the very beginning, when working with beginners, the first stance, which is also called a gymnastic stance, that is, we also do gymnastics. If your stance is incorrect, then your movement is incorrect. If your stance is incorrect, then your punches are incorrect. That is, the boxing stance combines several basic positions at once. Just as you place your punch accurately, you also place your boxing stance precisely. Because in the same stance you will attack, and in the same stance you will defend. So you need to place everything very accurately.